name is Petal. Welcome to your Felt Alive video workshop. Today we're going to learn how to make needle felted pups. To make a needle felted pup, you need about 2 to 2.5 ounces Norwegian C1 in a solid color. One solid color, 2 to 2.5 ounces. It's good to have, you need to have an assortment of colors. You may not need this many, but you do need an assortment of colors, including brown, black, and white. White is not Norwegian C1. Mine is merino. This is merino batting. You can get it in roving. You can use white Norwegian C1 as well. I like white merino better. So Norwegian C1 and some solid colors. To make our pups, it's a simple process of making eggs. We're going to make eggs, and we put together the eggs to make the pup. We're going to start with a small egg. You'll need your solid color. We're going to build the egg shapes out of the color for the body of the dog. So you need your batting, and we need to pull off sheets of batting. You can see how I'm pulling off the sheets here with the side of my hand. I want sheets of batting that are, once I straighten them out, roughly the size of my hand. I want 3 of these sheets. So once I have them straightened out, hold it in your left hand. Okay, so you get it in your left hand, and then see I've got the fibers coming out from between my fingers and my thumb. So I'm going to take my right hand and roll those fibers over. As I'm pulling and stretching them over, I'm going to pull my thumb out of the way. Now it's in my right hand. I'm going to switch it back to my left hand and roll it down one more time. See how the fibers are nicely stretching? It's getting some density in the fold. So now we're going to just roll it over. Roll those loose ends right over. Try not to make a fold or a crease. You just see how my thumbs and my fingers are moving around here. Roll over to the other side, grab a hold of those with my thumb, and now back over the top again. To the left, to the right, over the top, and now I'm starting to get a tail of fibers in my hand there, and that's going to form the middle part of the egg really nicely. This is going to be the thinner end, this is turning into the thicker end. And here we go, I'm just wrapping this around. Using the fibers to stretch around and hold themselves. So once I get it wrapped around, I don't want to let it go or it'll jump right back out into those sheets you started with. So I'm just holding it on my felting pad, and I've grabbed my yellow needle, the 40 gauge triangle. And this is the beginning of needle felting. I'm just taking and making sure that these wrapped fibers are going to be tangled together so it holds its shape that I've just created. So what I'm doing is rolling it around on my felting pad, and you can see how I'm just slowly sliding my thumb right out of the way. It doesn't take a lot of pressure to hold those fibers together until you get them needled, but a little bit helps. So that's getting to be a pretty long, skinny egg, because I haven't needled it all down yet. So you just need to go over the whole thing, and if you can see how I'm working it with my needle, I don't always go in straight up and down. I sometimes go at an angle this way, sometimes this way. You can kind of just feel the air, feel how it's tangling the fibers and pressing the air out. If you have really soft spots, just press in a little bit as you're felting. You want to make sure to go over the whole entire shape, pressing This end here, we're going to press it, we're going to shape it back down. I want it to be a thin point of an egg. So I've just pulled those fibers back around, making them pull around themselves until I can get them needled down. They were expanding and getting away from me. So just continue like that. Every time it's not behaving, you just squish it, pull fibers around, or if you don't have any fibers around, just squish it and poke it. Squish and poke, squish and poke. So go over the whole entire egg until it looks like this. You don't want to be able to fluff up these fibers. Those need to be felted in. This one I can't do that. It's still soft, but it's evenly dense. So just keep going around your eggs, smashing it into shape till you get a nice little egg shape. So when you have a nice little egg done, set that aside. Now we want to make a slightly larger egg. That will be for the torso. So you'd have to do the same thing, except for you need to stack up 5 sheets of wool instead of 3. And I never, no matter what size egg I'm making, I try never to stack up more than 5. It gets too hard to handle. So repeat the exact same steps to get this wool into the egg shape. Kind of just sliding and pulling, stretching all the way around. Holding it tight until I get these fibers all needle felted in. Rolling it around. When I'm making eggs, I pay special attention to the ends. They can get messed up, yours are likely to. Just work at them a little bit, pulling those fibers. There was a little crease in there, but we'll be able to needle that right out. So you can see how I press the fibers to the shape I want them and then needle them. And it works almost like clay. So again, go over this whole surface until the whole thing is evenly felted. And if you get an egg that's somewhere that you don't feel is quite big enough for your body, just take one more sheet of wool, roughly the size of your hand. One sheet does amazing things usually, and just start rolling it like you did before. Needle it down. It should be big enough. It should have added quite a bit of size, but if not, you can just repeat the steps. So you've got your 2 nice little eggs made, a larger one for the torso, a smaller one for the head. Now we need to make 2 matching eggs for the rear legs, the upper portion of the rear legs. So it's the same techniques to make smaller eggs as it is the larger techniques. It's just you hold it just slightly different. So I've got 1 sheet about the size of my hand, and I don't think I want 2 sheets. I think that'll make it too big, so I'm going to just a smaller sheet put in there. So there we go, about 1.5 sheets. So got it held between my hands just like before. There's less wool, so you have to use more of your fingertips than the whole sides of your hands. So over once, over again. And I want to make sure that one side of this egg is quite a bit bigger than the other. And the thin end remains fairly thin, so I'm going to just start shaping it into an egg, a small egg, just like the other ones. Right down onto the pad. Roll it all around and start sculpting it. This needle sculpting part is where you squish it and stab it to get it to hold the shapes you want. That's sculptural needle felting, and the possibilities are endless with it. And you see I'm going in sideways. I need to be very careful that I don't go so deep that I stab my thumb way down here. These needles travel fast, so be very careful of things like that. If you stab in one direction, pull out at the same direction. Don't stick your needle in and try to wiggle it around in there too much at all, especially this fine needle. So those are some quick pointers to keep you from breaking your needle as you roll this shape around. To get a nice tapered point, again, just squish. See, I squish that, squish and poke, and you'll get a nice tapered end. And just keep working your way up. If you get a little seam in there, that's okay. It'll cover. I'm just squishing more of that air out, compacting the fiber so I don't have to work so hard felting them. And I'm just going to keep squishing as I go. Got a little lumpy in there. See how it's starting to spread apart? These little shapes are actually trickier than the big shapes. You just have to manipulate these nice stretchy Norwegian C1 fibers. They can behave. See how I'm pulling that around? So these little shapes are much trickier, but once you get it down, they go pretty fast. You can make them pretty quickly. I make eggs nearly every day, and some days the wool doesn't quite cooperate with me. It just, sometimes this feels really slippery and it wants to slide right out of my hands. Sometimes I'm clumsy. Sometimes I've taken too much wool, not enough wool. It helps with practice, but every project's different. Every project's a learning experience. So keep going until your egg is, again, till you can't pull these loose fibers off. Can't do that here. So just keep going until it's that, just like that, and then make another one. That's a challenge too for even experienced needle felters to make two matching pairs. So just keep playing until you've got two matching pairs. It may take you a little while this first time around, but you will get it. I promise you will get it. So the forelegs are, guess what? Little eggs. They're just not quite as big or as fat as the hind legs. So I took one sheet of wool about the size of my hand and I tore it in half. So rather than 1.5 sheets like we had for the other one, we have about one, but it's torn in half. So again, over. I feel like I can't show you enough how to make these eggs because it seems like all of my characters are made of eggs, and it's such a vital part of needle felting is learn how to sculpt these core body parts with some control. So I'm shaping it the same way. See how nice that is? It's already formed for me. The needle just has to tangle it together. Again, roll it around and get it into shape. And again, the fun part, when you're done, make another one. And these are loosening up a little bit here. So you may be struggling to make parts the same size. I'll give you a couple of hints. Wool can be formed in your hand, nearly like clay once you've got a shape needle together. You can see how that smoothed it out, but it's quite a bit bigger than this one. Now, this one's much more dense, so I know this one can be shrunk down and reduced quite a bit. So I'm going to take the black needle, the coarse 36 gauge. This one's good for strong, deep felting. I want to just squish it in. Squishing my shape right down onto the pad, just slightly squishing it. And I'm going to show you from the side. I don't want you to hold it like this. I want you to hold it so that point goes down to the pad, but what it's doing is compacting the fibers on the inside of this shape. And already you can see how it's reducing in length. So you can do it again from the other side. Be careful on the pointy side. You don't want to fatten that side up too much. But that's going to reduce it. And once you've done that, then you have to go over it again with the 40 gauge triangle. If they're still not the same density, you can add a little bit. I never like to add to the thin side unless it's really paper thin. You just add a little bit of wool, another half a sheet will do. And just give it another quick wrap, and it extends the end quickly. And you let down, and your shapes will easily match. You don't want to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Sometimes you have to just discard a shape and start over. If you make it so rock hard, you'll never be able to work with it. You don't want to sit and needle it for an hour to make it match a shape to try to reduce it that much. If it's not cooperating, you can't make it work, start over. It doesn't take that much wool to make a tiny little egg shape. So some pointers to get them into shape. So have fun with that. When we come back, we will make the lower limbs. The next part we're going to make is the lower legs, all 4 of them. So these are formed a little bit differently. I'm going to move all of these parts out of my way. They're formed a little bit differently, and here's what I use: a popsicle stick, a lollipop stick, to get them confused. So for this, you need 1 sheet of wool. Again, roughly the size of your hand, maybe a little smaller. Mine are shrinking a little bit. I have big hands, but so roughly the size of your hand. So I'm going to tear that in half. Let's split that one right in half right now. Stack them together. Got all this stuff hanging off. You don't want that. Just clean that up. Okay, sticks are handy. So what I want to do is use the stick to form a nice clean pointy end, but I'm going to leave some fluff hanging off the end, so just watch very carefully. Rather than folding it over my thumb, the stick's going to be holding the tension and giving me a nice line to fold over. So first thing we're going to do is I have some fluff on the end. See, the stick's buried up in there a little bit, the end of it. So I'm going to take and fold it over. Now the end of the stick is somewhere right in here. I don't want any tension on the end of the stick as I do this, so I'm going to do it. I'm holding on tight and just rolling the fibers right around. And as I do that, I'm going to come up and gently roll them over, very much like how I'm shaping the egg, only that stick is staying in there. That stick is helping me keep tension on it. I want this shape nice and tight. Okay, now I'm just stretching and wrapping. I'm trying not to let it twist, and I'm stretching and wrapping it down about to the first joint of my thumb. See how it's all pinched? And I want to keep giving it some spins as I'm pinching that amount. Now the spinning action is actually felting these fibers. Gotta get them to hold together good when I pull this stick out. So I want all these fluffs left behind down here. See how thick that is and nice? The end of the stick is in there somewhere, but there's a lot of fibers over the end. I can't feel it. I can feel it, but I can't see it. So I'm going to pull the stick out, keeping a hold on everything right there, and lay it down on the pad. And now just make sure you get this little point, a nice little point needled in, and you just want to go back and forth, rolling it around. Just that, it kind of looks like the end of a thumb, just that first joint of a thumb length. So keep going, rolling it around till you get this tip nicely felted, and then making sure to go down into it just a little ways. I don't want to needle into the fluff too much, but I'm just, again, keep rolling it around. So now what's going to happen is this fluff is going to become this part of the paw. So we wind up with a little bit of excess here. So hold on tight to the shape you just felted. Pull some of that fiber off. With the point pointing up, start rolling all these loose ends up, keeping them held up there as you go. Folding, you can see the fibers pulling and stretching themselves. Forcing them all right up into the center. I've got it pinched. This is still up, pointing up. Now very careful of your fingers. Just start needling these loose fibers down. You don't need to mash all the air out of it. You don't need to hammer this with your needle. Just gently. I'm moving my fingers out of the way as I'm going. Once I've needled a spot, then my fingers don't have to hold the wool anymore. So that's just holding them down. It's the start of a paw. So all I want to do is just keep rolling it around, forcing these fibers just like I did the other eggs, except for I want to make sure that I keep this sticking up and out, because it's easy just to flatten it, and then it would be more like one of your other egg shapes if you flattened it. So be very mindful when you're sculpting this to keep that pointed end up. And you see here how I go from one side to the next. There's still some loose fibers up in here that can be pulled up. It's hardest to get in that spot in the very middle where you're pinching. So just pinch, poke, re-pinch if you have to, re-poke if you have to. You see here I have these grooves and lines. A little bit of sideways needling does wonders for that. So I'm just going over it, sculpting a nice shape of a paw and a foreleg right into this one piece of wool. Turn it over. You want to leave some of the air in there. It's going to be kind of fluffy and puffy. You want to leave some in there, but sculpt a little bit of it out. Sculpt it into a cute little paw shape. And then repeat the steps 3 more times until you get 4 nicely matched little paws. You've made all 4 little paws. You've got all your body parts together. You've done most of the hard work. Now the time is for fun. We're gonna set all of these parts aside for now while we create a funny, lively little head. They're a lot of fun, so let's get going on that. I'm going to get my parts all to the side here, except for the first egg you made, the smaller of the two main eggs. So we're going to turn this egg into a dog head, so we want to sculpt a shape into it. No, we're not going to sculpt all the features into this little egg, but we are going to sculpt are going to sculpt a bend into it. So we have a place to set the eyes. This will become the snout. So I just want you to bend your egg, and where you see the crease, take your yellow needle or your 40 gauge and just go over that crease a couple times. You'll feel it fold in your egg a little bit. That's what will happen. So now you need to sculpt it into shape like you've been sculpting all your other shapes, except you're going to be mindful of working a curve into this. And this is basically just sculpting it in the center here like this. It didn't take a lot of work, but I do need to go on the sides a little bit. I'm focusing on this area, and it's creating the whole piece, making the whole piece curve. So, okay, this shouldn't take too much more than that. So the next thing we want to do is create a shape to help us form the lips. So I'm going to set that little head aside, and I need one sheet of wool about the size of my hand. I'm trying to rescue some of these here. I'm going to draft it apart. I don't need it too bulky or thick. I don't want to be able to see a bunch of light coming through, but I don't want it too thick. I'm going to clean that up with any vegetable matter. You'll find a little bit of that in C1, not much, not compared to other kinds of wool. So I'm going to determine what side looks like the neatest. This one does. So I put the neat side down. All these little doggy sniffers are going to be in my way a little bit. So lay that down on my felting pad, and I want to take my yellow needle and I'm going to draw a line straight across. You hear that lovely crunching sound of the needle going into the pad. I left a little fluff on each end, so I went across it one time, and when I was going into that, through the wool into the pad, I'm maybe going in only maybe halfway or a third way up with my blade. I don't want to drive those fibers too deep into my pad. So again, I'm going to go right across this line, and what we're doing is creating a nice clean felted edge. This edge right here, nice clean felted edge. So this is locked into your pad. So then gently, very gently take those loose fibers and fold them over towards you, and you should be able to feel the line in there. I don't want you to pull them too tight, just very gently fold them. And then you take with your other hand and feel where you started. You can definitely feel right where you started. And now take and draw a kind of a half circle and aim your way right up and curve your way right up to where you stopped the line on the other side. So now you have a nice half circle drawn in. So very gingerly go across it. Don't sink your needle too deep into the pad, you'll damage it, but you're locking all these fibers right down onto your pad. So I'm going back and forth in between that line and here. And I want this shape pretty well compacted. So I'm going to go over it again. It doesn't hurt if you come past your line a little bit if the fibers start shrinking, and you do need some of this loose fluff, so don't go too far. You can have a nice edge on one side and fluff on the other. So once you've gone over that a couple times, you can see some holes, they'll relax out. So this is firmly felted into your pad, hopefully not too firmly. So just gather up all those fibers and very gently peel it off the pad. You can see where there's fibers that the needle drove through. So we'll have to clean those up. So to do that, I use my red needle. This is a 38 star. It has more blades, more barbs, and the barbs start closer to the tip. It's great for surface work. Move that needle out of the way. And I'm just going to take the side of my finger and pull those fibers over towards away from the edge. You can see how I'm going with just really quick little surface jabs. I'm not going through, you don't hear it crunching into the pad. It's just pushing those fibers up into this space. If I push it through to the front, well, then you'd have all this fuzz on the front to mess with, and you just felted that all down. So that's just, this is called the surface finishing stroke right here. Sideways felting with this wonderful needle that has lots of blades and lots of barbs. So now you should have a nice clean edge. Of course you have a little fiber, it's wool. So what this is going to form the snout, and it wraps right around the whole front of the egg. So you're going to see a little bit of the egg peeking out. And I want it to go around the pointy end, and these loose fibers should come up towards where you just needled the curve in. So to help us keep it in position, turning it over here. So you got a little overhang. This shape's going to shrink as we sculpt it in. So I want a little overhang there. I just want to tack it in, just to help keep it all centered, right in the very middle. So now what you need to do is tack the other end of the line, kind of right near where you've got that curve, right about where you started that curve of the head. So there's a little slack in there, that's okay. So now I want to start sculpting this fiber right up over here. Now sculpting these fibers in, just kind of stretch them, pull them as you go. Now these sides are going to have a little bit of extra because of all the curve, so hang on very tightly. I've got it squished. I don't want to pull anything apart, but I do want to just gently thin these thick fibers out. See how much I pulled off? That stuff I won't have to be needling in. I just don't need that. So I'm going to keep cleaning it up. And by that squeeze, I didn't pull anything out of shape. Everything's there. So now I can just keep squishing. See how I'm squishing? I've got all those loose fibers between my fingers. I'm pulling them apart until I can get them sculpted down. I just attack these sides down. I don't want to mess with that too much. I'm focusing on the top of the head. I want to get these fibers put away, put where they need to go. Spreading them out and stabbing them in. So you're going to get a funny looking little Muppet thing going on here. This big flap of a lip. See, rather than let this have creases and folds, I'm just gently working those out, straightening them out. Trying to keep everything in line with that, with this and this. So so this is you guys did you did needle sculpting when you made the eggs, but this is getting to be sculpting where you're trying to sculpt a specific profile or a shape, or not just an egg. So you have to start using your imagination of what a dog's head looks like. You can have some pictures around you to help. We're not doing breed specifics, so we won't get that detailed, but it does help to see how their snouts go together. See how I'm folding it now? Making sure that I'm not working that curve out. I'm actually working more of it in here. So now I want to start working on this part, the bridge. You can see it more on a different colored dog. The bridge, you can see here how it forms right between my fingertips. So I'm going to find that spot, the center right there, and I'm going to squeeze it and start forming this bridge. I've got it squeezed really hard. I'm misshapen the whole thing, but I want to take a few stabs down one side. Being very careful with my fingers now, a few stabs down the other. Go to one side, then the next, working your way down the snout. Going back in, I just want to make sure that I don't have any air in there, or not a lot of air in there. See, there's a big air pocket. That's okay, I pressed it out of the snout. So I just have to gently sculpt that away. Gently sculpt it away. I'm still staying out of that edge. And this part here, I don't want to sculpt that in yet. I don't want to make any commitments there. That's going to change some of the character. So it's not looking like a dog too much yet. But it will. Okay, so I've been sculpting away here, and I've got the nice start of a bridge. Turn it upside down here and start working this stop area where the dog's eyes are going to be up a little more. I think it's misshapen, so you have to roll it around and fix it. Keep squishing and poking. So before we get too much further, we're going to get the nose put on. Then we can sculpt the final shape in once the nose is put on. So when it comes to noses, I like to pick from my little pile of colors here. So many choices. I think I'm going to go with a cute little pink nose. Let's do the soft pink here. So a nose, we need, big surprise, a sheet of wool. We don't even need a half a sheet. So I pulled off, I'd say we have a half of a sheet. If that. So what I have is this little bit of wool. Well, here, so I'm just going to take it and fold these fibers over as I'm turning it. Keep them all held down nicely. What this is doing is forming a disc of wool. Go around it. Let's see here. So I'm not going to felt it anywhere on the pad or anything. I'm just going to really carefully, so I've got it all pinched, get it placed on my dog's nose. Now this is big, it's going to be a big nose. So it's kind of tricky at first. Let's hold on to it, get it placed at the end of the snout. I tacked it on to one side, and I'll show you a little bit better here to get it tacked on what I'm doing here. So this is called the attachment stroke, and what it is you're just taking a few fibers from along the very edge, the perimeter of where these two shapes meet, and you're just going right along the edge and forcing some of those fibers down. It does amazing things holding it down. Now we got to look at our shape here, make sure that it's not curling up the nose face too much. And on the front, you want to leave a little bit of the lip underneath the nose. So let's get this tacked down exactly where we want it. It should be just right around where you tack down your lip. Go ahead and pull your lip to give it a stretch, because it gives a really cute look if you have plenty of lip to play with there. So stretch that out. I'm mashing the nose shape flat and continuing that attachment stroke. And once I've gone all the way around, it's going to look like a big round ball. Now you can leave that if you like. If you like it like that, it's fairly cute, but I think it will fall off in time. I don't think it's securely attached. So I want to make this attachment here a lot more natural looking. So really squish these pieces together. Now I want to just take from the snout into the nose. Being very careful of my fingers. And squish again and go from the nose into the snout. And just start flattening out this joint, this attachment here, so you don't have that deep groove. And roll this around. You'll need to do this again on the front. See, it's like a ball. That needs to be better attached. So, again, let's squish this. I've got it squished right where I want it. And just keep going along until you have a cute little nose shape. They tend to be narrower here on top. You can see here. And they flare out, so you can sculpt it just like so. Give it a good pinch here. I don't want it to go too far up the head, so when I pinch it, make sure it's in a good spot. So that's just needle sculpting. So you just sculpt that nose. Into the shape you would like it. We are going to come back into the nose. Let's see. So I'm sculpting it flat. They tend to be flat. They like to sniff, so try to make it flat on this end. So I'm sculpting it flat, and while I'm doing that, I'm going to start making indents for the nostrils. To make indents, just keep going. Keep poking in the same area over and over, and it concentrates it down and indents it. So the next thing I want to do is get the same color you used for the nose. And pull off just a little bit. We're going to make a line, a yarn for a line. So let's see here. See how I'm taking, I just want to draft it apart. Drafting is pulling it apart without tearing it apart. just separating these fibers to make a longer piece. So then it's kind of tricky to get this started, but you want to start, you don't want to wind it like, you don't want to spin it like spinning a yarn, but you want to roll it between your fingers and start making a felted yarn. A little tiny spit bath helps. A little moisture on your fingers. See, I'm just rolling it. And the friction between my fingers and my hand is causing it to felt. A quick way is to roll it on your jeans once you get it started. It takes a minute or two to get a nice felted string. I rolled on my jeans, but you couldn't see it on camera, so. Okay, so I've got a line and pull those loose fibers off the end. Those aren't going to hurt anything. So you want it to be felted in the center with loose fibers. And it doesn't have to be perfectly felted. It just has to be holding itself together just a bit. So now just fold that right in half. Right in the very center, under where you started those little indents for the nostrils. Looks like funny whiskers. So what this is going to do is split the lip. So you want them to go to run side by side, fairly close together. Trying to get it positioned here. Okay, so once you get tacked in, now you want to feed them down, right straight down. You don't want them wide apart at this stage. And you want it to start sinking and dividing the lip. Make sure that lip is centered as you go. And divide it just near the edge of the lip. So it can be awkward to hold on to it and do that. So I'm going to go down just a little bit further before I divide those two ends here. I'm going to stuff a little bit up under this side. Just get out of my way. Stuff that under this one. Looks kind of like a bunny with that pink nose. It will be a dog, for sure. So I'm making sure that this line divides right at the bottom of the lip. And you can just tack them right in there. And then just clean that up a little bit. Do some more felting. You don't want to see the lines of the fibers, you just want a nice indented line there. I could have used brown or even black. It's just, I think it's fun to make it match the nose. Okay, so now you've got the lip divided. It's got this shape, a cute little shape. So I'm really never quite done sculpting. Now that I've got the lip divided, I want to get in and sculpt the nose just a little bit more. Make sure that it's not lopsided. It's pretty easy to sculpt. sculpt, I should say. So you see I keep going back into these areas that I've already sculpted. It's just that everything you do changes something else. So like these nostrils are getting a little bit off, but I'll be able to fix that. Sculpting. The next part of the dog is totally optional, but it's fun. I have a couple styles that I do. Give them a lower jaw or not. The lower part of the egg does, in effect, become a lower jaw, and it looks very, very cute. But you can't put a tongue in there or anything, and this just adds another dimension. So I'll show you how to do the lower jaw. So you need 1 sheet of wool about the size of your hand. Lay that flat out on my felting pad, and I'm going to draw a line in, but this time the line's going to have a curve. So I'm going to do the same thing, fold right over the curve, but this time instead of drawing another line in, I'm just going to pull the fibers down as I go. Again on the other side. Just kind of pulling them without stretching them off of where I tacked them in, just pulling them gently over. See, I'm pulling it off there. I don't want to do that. I just want to keep it going. It's some even, not any tension, just fold right up to the line. So back and forth, just like you did on the piece for the snout. You don't have to go back too far. That's good. It's not a perfect shape, but we're going to sculpt it a little bit more yet. I'm going to stretch it into shape. Once you get it off the felting pad, it expands. You get it into better shape. So I'm going to turn it over and get my red needle and hide these loose fibers that are poking through just like I did before. Get my needles out of the way. It would help. Okay, so we have just a flat piece. So that is going to, junk out of it again, that is going to add a whole bunch of character really fast. But before we attach that, I want to add a little bit of depth. All of these dogs, they have dark brown. When we started, I told you needed some dark brown Norwegian C1. I can't get by without this stuff. I use it in every creation I make. It adds great depth without being harsh. Black, if you use black for your depth, it looks very harsh. So get that wool out of the way. So what I want to do is add a little bit of depth behind the mouth. So it just takes a small sheet of brown wool, and I want to start it right in between the lines of the lips. You see how the fiber's just feeding right up in there? And just follow the line of the lips, and then fan these fibers out. You want it concentrated there. You want a nice dark spot, so just back and forth until they're flattened out. You don't want them sticking out of the mouth. Brown fur sticking out of the mouth of the dog would look weird. So make sure that they're all felted in. So once you have your brown wool in there, you can go ahead and sculpt this line in too. And if you want, you can cover it with brown wool, just depending on what kind of contrast you like in there. And we will be sculpting it down a little bit more too. I'm going to go ahead and leave it showing. So now the next step, we're going to be using this brown a lot, so keep your brown handy, but the next step is to get this lower part of the jaw placed. So first I want to do is clean this up, so really tightly hold on to that part I felted. Let's just clean that up. A bunch of wool came off of there. A bunch of bulk that we're not going to need. So you can see about right up here is where I tacked in the upper part. So this part's not quite as long even, so I want to make sure that that's tacked in kind of up underneath it just a little bit. And then on the other side, just a little bit up underneath it. And just like you did before, just start working those fibers. Well, just like you did before, tack this into place. We're gonna, right between where that lip splits, just tack it a little bit. We don't want it closed off all entirely, but we just want it in place. So I'm just sculpting these loose fibers down. And I'm going to start sculpting in a cute little doggy jaw. Pretty cute already. So I'm just sculpting away here. And now I want to start sculpting more of this shape and right here. So I want to try to get a little smile in here. I like a smiling puppy. So I've got a sewing needle. Sewing needles are the handiest things because I don't want to pry wool ever like this with a felting needle because it will break. So see, got it kind of pried up into a smile now, right? I just want to tack these down right down along next to this needle. A couple of places. It's a little exaggerated. We're going to relax that, but let's do it on the other side. Just adds really comical expression. So again, now I want to sculpt that in. Bring that jaw right up under there again. Sculpt all this in. It's the beauty of leaving your wool soft. You can apply it, sculpt it, change its shape with just a tug and a pull. Tug and a squish and a few pokes. So now that I have this little grin in, so I'm just sculpting away, sculpting. And if I want to leave leave this fluffy and airy, I can give it some more shape too. This is fun. This part is fun. I could sit and do this for hours, just keep sculpting a face. Sculpting any kind of face to me is just so relaxing. So that's looking funny because it's tacked in there. So we're going to pull that out and start. I want this lower jaw flap to be loose up to a point. I don't want it to be able to be peeled all the way back, so we're going to tack it right into that egg shape underneath it. See, I just roll back and forth. Gotta keep the needle going at a steady pace and move the wool around. Moving the needle a little bit, moving the wool a little bit. It seems to really get some good coverage. So he's got a really cute underbite. I don't know that I want that. So, and it's kind of too flappy. I want to get more of a curve into it. So to do that, I don't want it to look like a tongue. I'll probably make a tongue to hang out of it so it doesn't look like a tongue. It's just the color and where it's located right now that's throwing me off. And I think a tongue in there will be funny. So anyways, it's hard to see what I'm doing because it's kind of flat down there, but I'm just sculpting a curve into it and rolling it around. It's made a mess of it, gave him a little beard underneath. But I can just keep sculpting that curve right in from the outside too. Needle sculpting, sculptural needle felting, that's what this is all about. It takes some patience, and it really, as much as you want to work at it, as many hours as you want to put sculpting, as much detail as you want to get, simple or really detailed, it's all up to you. So I'm just going to keep sculpting. What I do on one side, I always want to do on the other. Split that lip even more by doing some serious squishing. See, I'm just sticking the needle in there. If I really want to indent it more, I'd take the black needle and just pick a few lines, a few points to go in. So that changes the look a lot of the dog. So I flatten this out a little bit, spread them out. Never forget about your sewing needle. Your sewing needle can help you find fun expressions all over the place. So we need to dig out our brown wool again. And this time we need to make 2 little concentrated spots of brown. So to do that, I'm just rubbing it between my fingers. I'm not rolling it into a ball, I'm just rubbing it and kind of felting it between my fingers. It concentrated that. So I'm going to clean that up a little bit. Getting blue stuff out around the edge. So what I'm doing is I'm just making a nice brown spot for the nostril, and I need 2 of them. Nice clean little piece. I'm trying to remember from what I pulled off in the first place for the first shape. So anyways, repeating that, concentrating them down. So they're not the right shape, but I just started needling it right in the center, and now I'm just continuing to needle it in, and it's sinking in. And as it's sinking in, the wool is kind of puckering out around it, forming a nice little nostril shape. So what I did on one side, do on the other. So I'm just needling over and over on the little spot that I want defined as a nostril. And eventually all those fibers will pull their way in. You see, I'm not even going around chasing them, they're just pulling themselves in. Now if those spots aren't big enough for you, go ahead and add more, concentrate some more, but make sure they're sunken in just a little bit. You can see how they've sunk in. So a fun thing to do now is to make another yarn of brown. Use brown this time. You don't want to make two. You don't have to be too long, so I'm going to rip one of those in half. So I've taken my little yarn and I want to set this cute little expression. So take one end of it and tuck it up under. Feed it around. This is just going to define this cute little smile that we set in here. And just gently needle it. See the depth it added so fast? And again, repeat on the other side. So let's get this guy prepared for eyes so he can see you. So we've been squishing and sculpting and I think we've got it into a pretty good shape, but I want to make sure. I don't want it stretching back out once I get the eyes in. So I'm over folding it, overextending that fold. And the sides of the head tend to get ignored when you're sculpting. So make sure you get these sides here, and it should hold everything together really nicely. So now we're going to move along to the eyes. We've got it sculpted into shape, and I just want to make sure that it's good and flat there. So here I've sort of started to just make slight little indents for the eyes. Don't have to get carried away, just slight little indents. So back to my stack of fun colors, I want to choose an eye color. Randomly, I think this would be really pretty with those colors. A nice light turquoise green. And you get a nice clean piece. So I pulled off a little bit to work with. This is a lot. So what we're going to do, just like we did on the brown spots, is get just a little thin sheet. I just keep cleaning it up as I go, concentrating it down. And this is going to become the main color of the dog's eye. Pretty big spot, but that'll concentrate down, as you saw how the nostrils concentrated down like that. So I just pull off the little bits and then felt it right back into the center. Okay, he looks cute already. Okay, right into the center of those little indents, and just start really gently you don't want so much fiber here that you've got these big built up knots on the head, but you want a really nicely concentrated color. Do you see how it's just forming its way in? I'm very gently grabbing those loose fibers. Only the really loose ones. I wouldn't try to pull this shape around. So go around. If you need to switch to your red needle, it's got all those blades and barbs close to the tip, so that usually will take care of those fuzzies. So you see how cute? You just have a nice little spot of color. Repeat for the other side. try to get them the same size. To get it down to that part, I like to change to the right needle again. Okay, back to our brown wool. We need tiny little spots, little sheets of concentrated brown wool. So let's just concentrate enough for both eyes at once. So, let's see, make sure I got two before I get started. I want them relatively the same. Been working with such small bits of wool, they can get lost on this dark colored felting pad so easily. That piece wasn't right, but this is. Okay, I'm going to off-center them just slightly. Some really gently, shallow jabs. I like using the yellow needle because it kind of goes slow. It doesn't felt it all into one concentrated spot. You can spread them out a little bit as you go. So it's off to the right on that side, so I went off to the right on this side just slightly. It's just going to give it a look like it's looking to the side a little bit. That I think adds liveliness to the dogs, excuse me. I make a lot of dolls. I talk about dolls a lot. I love to make dogs, but they're all, I guess, dolls in the end. So one is a little bigger than the other, but that's okay because I haven't actually finished that side all the way. There was some loose fibers throwing me off there. Okay, see how easy that was? And they're so cute already. So I mentioned in the very beginning that we need white. We need a little teeny bit of white, and that's all we need. When I say little teeny bit, that's it right there. So take that little teeny bit and tear it in half. It helps to get your finger moist. A little split bath goes a long ways. So you want these spots to be really tiny. These are going to be the glimmers of life in the eye. There's one spot there, but it's far too big. You can barely see them in these guys, but they're there. So, since it really didn't take me any effort to make that spot, I just have to take a little more of that wool. And we're really not wasting that wool because there's not much there. So I made a smaller spot. Now I got one more little bit of wool in my hand. It feels like the same size spot. So let's toss those on the eyes. Get rid of the big spot. Now with the yellow needle, I want to evenly place these somewhere where I think the light might be reflecting. I think I like that spot right there. And try to get it in the same spot on the other side. You don't want to sink these away. They're easy. If you sink it away and you can't see it anymore, just make another one and put it on top. So they're giving fun little glimmer of life to these little eyes. So now we need to make eyelids. The eyelids add so much character. Really, really fun. They add a little structure to the top of the head too. So it's a really important step that we're going to do. So we need 2 small sheets of wool. Small and small. Same size, roughly. So I'm laying those right out on my pad. I want to draw Just a short line, leaving fluff all the way around. And it's hard to see what I'm doing because it's so small. It's just like we made those other flat shapes. So pull it over, and I want to draw that half circle in because we're actually going to make a flat felted little half circle. Back and forth, back and forth. A couple times. It's really important you have fluff all the way around and one nice clean flat edge. So what I did on one, let's go ahead and do it on the other one before I even pull them up. Make sure they're both evenly. Make sure they're both equal size, equal density, roughly. Perfection, no. So there we have two little shapes. Now these are really fragile, so be very careful when you pull those up. You do need to get these fluffs out of the way. These fuzzes for sure, so I can hear it crunching into the pad a little bit, but that's okay. It's going in the right direction. Okay. Again for the other side. And you should know what to do next, and that is to make sure to clean your fibers up. You want to leave some, but you don't want any big chunky messy fibers. So this step is really cute. It's really fun. Let me clean these messes up here. These little flat shapes. So these they make me giggle out loud. You should be falling in love with your dog right about now too. Probably even sooner. So I'm going to tack it in on one corner, just on the edge, the end of one side of that edge, and then really carefully tack the other edge in. Now before you do anything else, repeat it for the other side. If there's any fluff over that other eye, make sure that's out of the way. I want to find the side with the least fluff. I don't want a lot of fluff between the eyes, so just tack it right between the eyes there. So I'm folding it over to make it like a lid shape, and right down at the corner. So how cute is that? So now just holding the lids in shape with your finger, between your fingers there, just start. I've got a big lump of fiber. I don't like it there, but if I pull it off, it could pull those eyelids right out. I pulled that one out a little bit. But anyway, so I got that chunk out of there. So now I just want to just gently start sculpting my way, kind of staying out of the eyelids, all the way around the eyelids. I don't want them big and poofy. I'll sculpt them down a little bit, but I just want to get these fibers tacked down first. It doesn't take a lot of sculpting to get these down. It doesn't take a lot to really give cute expression either. Okay, so sculpting around. Let's see, I'm going to work in. I want these eyelids to remain a little puffy. I think it's just adorable. So I'm going to get my sewing needle and I'm going to try to adjust the lines of the lids so they match. Kind of a worried looking little guy. So I'm just going to carefully change to the red needle because I want to do the surface felting just to get a really pleasing little shape into these lids. And make sure there's no seams. So just carefully, just slowly sculpt them away. And keep getting in there with your sewing needle, making sure that you've got it felted into the expression you like. You can really change that expression in a hurry. You can make it look happy or sad or confused just by changing the line of that. I'll show you real fast. Pull back. Let's see here. So I want to sculpt in. I don't want to be able to peel this way back and see behind the eye. Make sure that's sculpted in. I'm not going over the eye, just right behind it. If the lid's covering the eye too much, just needle it into it, shrinking it back towards the head. Sometimes you can easily cover way too much of your cute little eyes, so. And if you feel like you've flattened something out too much, just pull it back out with your felting needle. Not your felting needle, your sewing needle. Don't ever pull with your felting needle because you will break your needles. So, how cute is that? Alright, let's move along to the tongue. I think this little guy needs a tongue. Let's just make a red tongue. That'll look cute with the pink. So the red tongue is very similar to the shapes you've already made. It's basically the same as the lower jaw, only we need it narrow. Dogs' tongues are very narrow at the point and they get wider at the base. So that's what I've drawn in. But I'm leaving fuzzy towards the base because I'm going to need that to attach it. So quickly just fold it over the line and tack those fibers down as you go. And pretty soon, I don't want to make it see, I started making it really pointed. I don't want to make it too pointed. I don't want to make a snake tongue, so back and forth over this. You don't have a lot of room to put a big tongue in there, so don't go back too far, but I'm going to shrink this down. I'm going to keep compacting it all together, back and forth. Take it off. This one I want, this shape I want pretty dense, and I want to shrink it down a little bit more yet. So I'm continuing to go back and forth. And this, by the way, is the exact same way you make ears, but you make them with your body color. So we'll go over it quickly, the ears, and I'll show you how to attach them. But this is the tongue, cute little tongue. So I'm holding on to that shape. I don't need a lot of this fluff to attach it. I just need some. So you can just stick it, peel the jaw back. I'm going to get one of my popsicle sticks and just start forcing these fibers way down in there. So they're forced down in there. I've peeled this back a little bit. We're gonna fix it back up again. But anyways, I've pulled it back. Now I'm just needling it up into the egg shape underneath. Making sure those fibers are where they're supposed to be. And that is wherever you can't see them. See how easy that is? So, see, I can see some of the loose ones there. Let's just drive them back there where they go. So now I want to close this jaw back up a little bit, not too much, because I thought that was cute. But this just locks it all in together, makes it really strong. So the next step then is ears. So to make ear shapes, I've already got mine made here, and I just showed you how with the tongue. It's the exact same method. Whatever shapes you want are the shapes you draw into your wool. I want some pointy ears for this little guy, so I drew that shape. But if I want floppy ears, I'll draw a big floppy shape, always leaving the fluff on the bottom, and then just start gently rolling it over, just like for the tongue, until you have it felted on both sides and not a lot of fuzzies, and it should be a nice flexible pliable shape when you're done. So once you've got your basic ear shapes done, you can prepare them for attachment by pulling off the excess fibers while holding onto the shape. Now this attachment's a little bit different. It's key to pull them apart into the felted fibers. You can see where I'm pulling there like that. That's going to give me a good strongly felted area to attach to the head. So now we have to determine the position. Straight up, flopped over. Kind of like that flopped over mutt dog look. I really do. So getting it in a position on the head where it pleases you. I like to get a little curve in it too. You see how I'm pinching it and pressing it in. So right at the deepest part of the ear, I'm just starting to sculpt. I'm ignoring these fluffy ends for now, making sure the ear's in a position that I like it. If it's too close to the eyes, it's going to be funny ears. See, I got it going right up between the eyes. So I've only started to attach it, so I can adjust that now. I'm going to pull that back. And just keep moving it around. So I got it tacked on the inside. Now I'm going around the back side, right around the base. Once I get it attached all the way around the base, then I'll start sculpting in these loose fibers. There still should be a little wiggle room to sculpt. I wanted mine flopped over, but they're trying to stand up. We're just gonna let them stand up then. Again, pull those excess off. Fan that out right up into the felted stuff. Place on the head. making sure those fan fibers are spread out over the head. Pinch it and curve it into a position you like. Attach it around the perimeter. Making any adjustments as you go. Well, we're just about done with our little dog head. He's very, very cute, very funny. My colors remind me of the Pink Panther. That's great. I want to give him a little shading. Shading adds a great deal of depth and character. I'll start out with the basic shading technique, and that's just to mix a little bit of that up. I like to just pick up some of these random scraps that I have laying all over my felting pad, and mix a little bit of brown up with the flesh color. The flesh color or the hide color. Back to my dog making skills. Mix it with the body color, and that just gives you a tone darker. And what you can do with that darker tone is put it anywhere that you want to add a little depth. Right under the eyes is nice. And I try to use a really light touch as I go. Just kind of lay it on, press it on there with my fingers. It wants to, it's going to want to, you're just going to keep it spread out. It wants to start forming lines, but you just got to keep it spread out. So there's one way to do it. You can mix up any colors you want just like that. You can layer on color after color. Sometimes dog's eyes is really cute just to get a little bit of just red, just a nice red color. Make a thin little yarn. They need to be pretty short. And I like to just add a little bit of bloodshot. Even in this pink dog, it'd be hard to see it, but it just gives a great effect overall. So just subtle little things you can do. So add depth of shading anywhere you like. If you want freckles, you can mix up. I've got this one mixed, the nose color mixed with the blue color, and it made a purple color, but I've just used some of this brown I mixed up. So the freckle area is right in here. So I'm just taking this little wisp of mixed up wool and to pick a few freckle areas, just to stab a little wool in, kind of twist in a little bit with the needle. Pick another one. See how that's just kind of concentrating those spots without adding dots. Really cute. And then take your red needle or your 38 star and just start just surface felting it. And that gives you some cute little freckles without adding much wool or without adding spots or dots of wool. Highlight as much as you like. You can add some depth there in the mouth still as well. On the tongue you can add some browns. You can add some shading in the ears. That's always a nice place for shading. So go nuts with shading. And we have now finished our doggy head. So I'm going to clean up my work area, and when we come back we're going to assemble all of those body parts we made so this little guy can run and jump and play. So we're going to set the head off to the side. He's going to supervise with the rest of the crew. So we're going to need the large egg, and we're going to need the two flat large pieces that are for the hind legs. So lay that right on, position it about just so. Take your black coarse 36 gauge triangle blade and poke in right in the center. So what I'm doing here is I'm forcing fibers from the leg into the body without pulling out, so I'm only making one hole. This needle is pretty big and it tends to beat up the surface, and I don't want to beat up the surface, I just want to attach these. So this is called jiggling. This needle is strong. See how that stabbed through there? That's a good way to poke yourself. So try not to poke so deep as I just did. This is called jiggling. This is a strong needle and it can handle it. It can handle it if you just gently change the angle every time you start to pull out. So what I'm picturing here is underneath this would be the hip bone with some cartilage and muscle all around it. So I want this to be a good broad attachment here. So that's why I'm going in all these directions from outside of that hip bone. So there, it's just tacked on. You can see inside it's just tacked on, those fibers there. So grab your yellow needle and you're going to go around this whole perimeter doing an attachment stroke, like how you attach the nose. This hip joint is going to be a very, it needs to be very strong. So I went around one side, now I got to take fibers now from the body side into the legs. And I want to go over this a couple times before I move on. I have to go around the whole perimeter, but I want, it's basically seaming these two together, felting them together. So again, that perimeter. Going from the body into the leg now. I'm going to flip it over. Keep going on that perimeter. Now it gets tricky when you get under here. You still got to keep that perimeter in mind. So I got that leg bent right back. So I've gone all the way around it. I've got a nice strong attachment. It's not on there good. I could pull that off, but it's attached. So the next step is to take a sheet of wool, not too terribly thick. You want it to be long enough to wrap around this joint one time. So there's about what I have. So starting at the very top of the hip, I'm going to find the neat side, put the neat side out there. So just using my fingertips to really gently spread that wool around. I'm going to just start tacking it into the right over the perimeter where I just felted. I don't want to drive the fibers down in. I just want to cover this. So it's just tacked in, so now I'm going to turn it over and really gently fold them around If I pull them really tight, it's going to just slice this part off, slice that joint right off. So I don't want to do that, so just be real gentle. Tacking them in. Now I've got this other side I want to pull around. And it should just barely overlap what you just tacked in. See? So it's all tacked down, it's holding itself together. Now I need to felt it on. All these loose fibers need to go into both the body and the leg shape. So this requires rolling it around and just gently working your way around, very easily working your way around. If you work your way around a few times, you'll more evenly felt it. This first time around, it's just pretty much tacking all those fibers down. And then on the second time around, you're going to be a little more careful. I want you to extend this joint a little bit, not too much, but just a little bit, and make sure that it's flat. You don't want it indented. If it is, add a little sheet of wool. So get the other leg on there, just exactly like you did the first one. Okay, I've got both legs attached, so now you need to attach the front legs just the same. The wider end of the leg forms the shoulder, and this will form the elbow of the dog. So it's exactly the same way, just make sure you place it towards the front and a little lower on the dog. So no different, nothing different. So repeat all those steps. Get tacked in, do the attachment stroke around on both sides. And you get down here, same thing, bend it around. Bend it back so you can make sure to get the underside attached. Then give it a wrap. And repeat on the other side. Okay, all four libs are attached. Yours should feel good. Feel like they're strong. You should be able to flex them a bit. This one, compared to this one, doesn't have enough of an attachment, so I just need to wrap that one more time, go over that whole process again, the wrapping process one more time, and it'll fix that right up. Not a problem at all. So those are the little things you want to check before you proceed, and that'll make your dog strong and even and well felted. If you have seams, yucky seams that you don't like, a thin sheet of wool, very thin sheet of wool, really hides anything. So you can just flatten it out with your hands and cover it right up. The same goes if you have hollows in your joints or your joints look messy. Just cover that up. Cover up the seams. So your dog should be standing but on very short legs. So the next part we're going to do is get these paws out that we made, and we're going to attach them to the legs. They should be roughly the same size, but usually I find two that are more similar to each other. So let's see, I have, let me pick out. Those two look good together, and those two look good together. So I'm going to go for the bigger paws up front. So let's start with the front. So let's get those two bigger paws out of the way. So dogs have elbows kind of like we do. So the back of the forearm wraps around the front. These two pieces meet together like this. And to get them to unite better, we need to flatten this piece out. Now it's kind of tricky to do. You don't want to wreck your dog joint that you just made, but take that black needle and just flatten the tip out of each one just slightly. Okay, so this is going to wrap along around the back side of this joint. So I like to set it over here on the edge. I'm going to lay that right on top. And just take this black needle and flatten those two pieces together. And now turn it over. Okay, it's time to switch to the yellow needle and really work on the attachment stroke around that perimeter of the joint. See how I'm turning it from side to side. And a really good attachment here. Roll it around, and then after I've gone over it and I feel secure it's attached, I need to wrap that joint. It looks a little funny, but it'll be great and springy and strong as soon as we get it wrapped. So find a place to work on it. I find myself flopping these things around a lot, so stretching it right over the top of that joint. Just tacking those fibers in so I've got them spread out so I can work with them easy. Turn it over. I'm going to pull that tight around there. Okay, you see I tacked them down only. Now I'm going to take this other side here. That that little joint is just getting completely buried, but what it's going to do is allow for a great deal of flexibility in the dog. So now I need to sculpt all these fibers in. And we'll test this joint out in just a moment here when we get all these fibers attached. There we go. So, repeat for all. Well, let's see. Before I tell you, repeat for all 4 legs. Repeat for the front leg. And you'll see how the main leg goes behind the front leg. But when you get to the back leg, it's just the opposite. So it attaches like that. Just like your elbow wraps around the back of your arm, and just like your knee wraps around the front of your leg. So attach all 4 joints just like I've just described. And when you come back, your doggy will be able to jump around. Okay, so I have all my joints attached. You can see that flexes very nicely. This is a good time to start sculpting the body. You can press and squeeze and just go over this whole thing. Making sure that it's all well felted. You can, if you want to sculpt in more of a natural shape there with the rib cage, by all means go ahead. You can leave them big and chubby. You can sculpt the hips to be thinner, squeezing and poking. The main thing that I want you to be certain is that these joints are well attached, they're well wrapped, that they have flexibility in them. You can see here a little bit of fibers pulling away. So I just want to make sure to go over that. Go over those joints. If they look too abrupt, then wrap them again. Just fill in those spots. The important thing is to make it look seamless and how you like it. And then so once you have all that sculpted, make sure everything's wonderful, then we're going to come back and we're going to get the head on and then the tail. So our little guy is ready for his head. They're so cute when they get their heads on them. Just all comes together. So it's pretty obvious where the head goes. You can have him looking down. You can have him looking more straight up. Having him looking up too far is a little tough. But let's just make him like so. Not looking straight down, just looking out. So I want to take my coarse black needle and poke right into this little feller's ear. Let me turn it so you can see. I've got the body in the palm of my hand. I've got his head pinched between my fingers and I'm pressing it all together. So I want to go through the ear right down into the body. Now I'm pulling out only enough to grab fibers from in here and push them into the body without taking the needle all the way out of the ear. We've done this before attaching joints. So go into the other ear I want to make sure I'm pulling out far enough. I don't want to just jab it way in here and jiggle and felt way in there. I need to be pushing fibers. So the jiggling, you can feel it pulling them in there. So it's tacked on there. I'm still holding it because that's going to fall off. So let's stab him. I'm stabbing in places where you're not ever going to see these holes. So the needle's traveling right down into the body, jiggling it around. You can go through the nose. Be careful, don't stab yourself, don't go so deep. Okay, so there's a little head tacked on. Looks like he's missing a neck. Well, this is going to extend as we attach, so let's proceed. So you know the attachment stroke. You know it well by now, so you have to go around the whole entire perimeter, going from one side and then the other. Just the perimeter, don't try to tack it way back there, just that perimeter where we attached it. So you can see those fibers. That's the perimeter. And in doing this, this just sort of lengthens these two shapes here with this union. And somehow it turns into a neck. But as you can imagine, oh, he's so cute. I hope you're giggling and laughing too, out loud, even if you're all by yourself. So as you can imagine, you will need to wrap this joint when you get it all the way done. But I'm going to work you through that one. I'm not just going to tell you to wrap it. I'm going to wrap it with you because it's such an important joint. You see those fibers there from where we tacked? So let's squish that back together. Tacking it together with that big black needle doesn't really add it much strength. It gives me something to work around. Kind of guidelines almost. So I don't want to tack the shoulder down, but pull it out of the way. Okay. These squishing techniques just gives me something to bite into with the needle. Okay, we want to get these in, and then we're going to go ahead and give it a nice strong wrap and strengthen this head up. So I have a nice little sheet of wool. I want it to have some density to it. Don't want it flimsy. Don't want it too thick though. And I want at least the sides to be thin and fluffy. So, just like all the other joints, you start tacking it in after you spread it out over the top of the joint. Take your yellow needle. Just very gently start working back and forth. Okay, so I'm pulling same as I did on all the other wraps. Getting it tacked in over here, the first wrap. Just tacked in, just enough so that I can pull this other side around. Now again, if I pull too tight, I'll slice his head right off, so I don't want to do that. I don't want to slice his head off. Cute little head, so make sure it's a tight wrap, but not too tight. So start tacking those fibers down. Get the loose ends tacked down. So now, holding it into shape again. Wrap has to get tacked in very, very well into the chest and then right up into the chin, the neck, underneath the neck, up towards the chin. You see I'm just working my way out from the center on both sides. So just keep going all the way around and get this really nicely attached. And if it's still too thin, you always have the option of wrapping any joint again until you feel it strong and secure and right. See how I'm flexing it? I'm making sure to flex it around while I'm sculpting it so it's got a good range of motion, and then I make sure that I get it all felted well. So we've done a lot of work getting all the limbs on, getting everything wrapped nicely. I did take another wrap around the neck, exactly like the first one. And I've taken some time to go and make sure all the loose fibers are felted in. But before I get it really nicely finished, I want to put the tail on. It looks a little funny without a tail. So for a tail, I took 2 sheets of wool and tore them in half. I want at least 1.5 sheets to 2 sheets of wool. So again, made 4 paws. You know how to do this. I'm gonna roll it around there. Good. It's hard to wrap when there's thick wool there, so if you have to start over, that's all right. So I want to work it into a nice point, backing that stick out of there. If it's causing too much bulk, and it is, I want to be able to get that down to a nice tapered point. So I'm just wrapping these fibers around. I don't want to twist them. I don't want this to be a twisted mess. Just want to wrap them around. So I'm spinning it towards me, keeping those fibers straightened out, and just I'm going to take it about perhaps the length of my thumb. Straighten them out and keep spinning. Just condensing these fibers around the stick. Okay, now I'm going to pull that stick out of there and begin working this shape into a tail. So roll this around, keep felting it until it's the length, the size. Work in a curl if you like, you know, just like how you did on the head. You just compact it into one area, so just roll that around until you get a tail that you like. And then again, clean up the fibers. See how nicely it's felted? It's got a little fuzzy end, that's okay. I worked a little curve into it. And so I've cleaned up the fibers on the end of this, any excess. I clean it up just a little more. We need nice loosely fanned out fibers to make a very nice tail attachment. So I want to stretch and pull into that felted area. That gives a nice solid place to attach. Now I want to take my pup, a cute little pup, and position that on his rump. You decide where it goes. This is a another attachment, a joint attachment. So I've got the black needle out. I got this guy laid down on the pad, all squished down, so I have something to work against here, so I can hold that tail down. So I want to slide this needle in right down the length of it and use that deep attachment stroke. Pick another side, right down the length of it, keeping it held down with my other hand. My fingers out of the way. Now to a third side and over here to the fourth side. Now that's just tacked in. Want to make sure it's squared up. Looking good. Put that black needle aside and get out my yellow needle to complete this attachment. Start working my way around at the base. Go all the way around. Making sure it's staying centered. Going all the way around the perimeter. And it's getting a little bit off center, so just adjust that. And continue working and work your way around the perimeter as you go, spreading your needle out a little bit, working all those loose fibers in. Make any adjustments as you go. You may have to reshape the tail a little more. Getting into a sensitive area here. We'll just get through it fast. Poor little guy. You can add as much detail and shading as you want at this point. Once you get this all securely attached, you can add shading and details just like you did on the face. You can add lines in the paws. Little brown lines make great ways to divide these paws into toes. You can put on spots, freckles. Spots you just lay out alternate colors of wool and needle them on. You get cute little spots. I want to show you how to properly finish a needle felted item. They tend to, when they're all fuzzy like this especially, they tend to pick up every little thing. And so I want it not so fuzzy. We've added a lot of layers and wraps and we've needle felted things in, but I want to just make sure nothing is wrapped only and not felted like on our eggs. See, that's not quite felted. So I've got my red needle, the 38 star with all the blades and all those extra barbs closer to the tip. So this is called a finishing stroke. And you'll see that I'm holding my needle nearly parallel to my project. And I'm working in a small area, maybe the size of a quarter or a $50, somewhere in there. And I start closest to myself, pointing the needle towards me and working my way backwards. Every stroke fills in the hole before it. You get a beautiful, beautiful finished surface. And you'll see I'm adjusting and I'm turning my work. I go over it in a pattern, and I want to go over it 3 or 4 different ways. And this is just putting a really nice surface finish. And if there's areas that aren't felting in real well, just hold the needle another way. Sometimes Norwegians see one, those last few fibers are stubborn, so you have to go over it holding it both ways. So I like to just take it away and hold it in my hand, because you use these shallow strokes, you're pretty safe from poking yourself. And just go sit somewhere comfortable and go over the entire surface of the dog with these nice finishing strokes. And the very last thing I do, now these are dogs, so the fuzzies don't bother me as much as in some of my other projects, but to take my curved embroidery scissors just does beautiful, beautiful work for snipping these random fibers away. You can really see them if you hold it in the light, and some of them really may bother you. If there's any sticking out of the eyes, just trim them up. This will complete your piece. You'll have a beautifully finished work of art that's also can be played with, can be posed. Yours should be able to sit down on command. They want to spring back into the position that you felted them in, but the little coaxing, sit, stay, wag your tail, be happy, sit up, roll over. These babies can play. They love to play. You should have nicely made joints. If you have gaps and seams, wrap those up, cover them up, but you see how the flexibility, you can tickle them. Very lifelike, very, very fun. So I hope you find yourself with many, many happy, fun little pups. Thank you for joining me, and happy felting.